Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Have you ever wondered how you can effectively speak in front of a live audience? Now, we're not talking live streaming here, we're talking speaking in front of a live audience, whether it's 2 or 3 people in front of a panel for an interview, or if it's speaking in front of thousands of people on a stage. How can you do that effectively? How can you do it efficiently? And how can you make sure that you're always in control of the situation? That sounds very hosty, doesn't it? So today we're talking about public speaking briefly before we go into some questions and spin the wheel. As always, if you're new here, we're here on day 4 of the Habitual Muslim podcast, the Habitual Muslim stream, where we basically speak about habits, efficiency, productivity as a Muslim, as a day-to-day lay Muslim. We have a wheel here which has a whole bunch of different topics, one missing because we have removed one and we'll be adding a new one, inshallah. In fact, let's temporarily add the one that was suggested yesterday because I like that one, and that's a question to you guys. So let's add that there. So question, or let's write audience question. Audience question. Okay. If you have a question throughout this stream, this entire stream is based off of us being able to have a conversation together. The general vibe is that I'm going to speak about something in some way that I either experienced or something I've learned about the general topic of, improving ourselves in some way. And then we'll go through some questions, we'll go through the wheel. So if you do have any questions, do write in capital letters on the chat, question, and then your question. And if it's based on a particular topic, write the name in capitals, the topic name, like for example, public speaking, and then your question. Let's see who's joined the chat. Alhamdulillah, we've got Omar back from Austria. I didn't know you were from Austria, Omar, so Jazakallah khair for joining us. We have Hussein back from Germany, Alhamdulillah. We have LK back, and we have some new names that I'm not recognizing. We've got Yusuf, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nadeem is back. Let's get you up, Nadeem. Assalamu alaikum. Who else have we got? We've got Father Sunglasses, who was here yesterday. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today we're talking a bit about public speaking. I think to some extent, everybody public speaks, right? And whether, like I said, whether it's in a job interview or whether it is really performing to a high level in front of a big audience. And alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me with the opportunity to be able to do some public speaking. And my public speaking journey started, and it wasn't always great. It started when it was about 11 years ago, when I was about 14 or 15. I want to say even younger because it's quite an embarrassing story. And if I say I'm 14, 15, it doesn't sound as cool when I explain what the outcome was. I think I was in year 8 and I entered a public speaking competition in my school. Alhamdulillah, I actually spoke about, and this was at the time where, Islamophobia was rife, because it was a few short years after 9/11 and stuff like that. And so my talk in my school that I had prepared was about why Muslims are peaceful, something along the lines of that, right? Which was a heavy topic for like a 12 or 13 year old, I have to admit. And I did the talk, and alhamdulillah, it was a success. And I actually got moved forward, and I won, a few rounds, and I got to the point where I was representing my borough. And actually, I was representing my school, and the winner of that then represents the borough against the whole of the UK in this public speaking competition. So alhamdulillah, I won and got to the point where I was representing my school for the borough. And this was the first time my dad had ever seen me speak. And I've told this story various times in public speaking, so you may have heard it before if you've ever come to an event that I've ever hosted or done a talk at. And what happened is I stood on stage, and my dad, I was very nervous and scared, and I was constantly trying to seek his approval, because he's a very serious man, and I think he expects us to achieve high results, which is an amazing characteristic of him, and I am so grateful to him for being like that, because I think it's enabled us to try our best to be the best we can. And so knowing that, I invited my dad to this thing. He took me there, and I stood on stage. I'm really cutting this long story short. I stood on stage, and all of a sudden, all I see is no one else other than my dad, just tunnel vision. I just see him at the back of the room staring at me, and I got so nervous. And my speech was amazing. I started, and we're going to go a bit onto how to kind of capture the audience straight away. But I started by standing on stage. I was silent, and out loud in front of a completely non-Muslim audience, I said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, or something like that. And then, all I see is my dad, and I just froze. And not only did I freeze, because that wouldn't have been that bad, I then broke down and started crying on stage in front of all of these people. And my mentor, because you get given a mentor at that point, was like, no, come on, carry on. And I just couldn't. And I just started crying, and eventually got off the stage. And it was the worst experience probably of my life. And I got back to the car, and I was nervous, and I kind of crack a joke at the end when I tell this story about how my dad reacted to that and stuff. In mentioning that I didn't translate Bismillah correctly, but that's the story for another day. And so that was my first experience, and that was about 11 years ago. And since then, alhamdulillah, I've been able to public speak in front of small audiences in situations like job interviews and at university, and I'm going to go into those in a second. And then big opportunities, alhamdulillah, with the biggest being the opportunity now 2 years in a row to host Mufti Menk's UK tour. And that kind of accumulates at the XL Arena in London in front of around 5,000 people. And that is a crazy experience, and inshallah one that I'll be able to do for many years to come, because I really do enjoy it. So how do you effectively speak in front of people? And I think this is what I've had to learn over the last 10-11 years, from crying to now being able to hold an audience somewhat. And we'll start with, it's very important that when we're public speaking, we show as much of our natural personality as possible, because your natural personality is probably what got you in front of that audience anyway. And your natural personality is your best ticket to winning that audience over, because it's you, it's who you are. Trying to pretend to be someone else is going to be so difficult, and trying that for the first time on stage new is going to be a disaster, unless you're a great actor, and even then you're going to find some cracks because you get nervous, right? So it's always best to try and highlight the best parts of your personality. That's the first thing to remember. The second thing that I need to remember, and I have over time started realizing, is how much you need to slow things down. So when I'm on stage, I actually speak a lot more at this pace, because I've been told by many people that I speak too fast. And in front of a live audience, even worse than live streaming. When I'm on my YouTube channel, if I speak fast, it's my YouTube channel, right? So yeah, I'm gonna just be myself naturally. I do everything on my YouTube pretty much is unscripted. Literally everything is unscripted, and so I'm talking like this. On stage, you're presenting yourself in front of a big audience, and you have to be completely approachable, right? So slowing things down is very important. Your posture is very important. But after kind of your posture, and before slowing things down, let's talk a bit about your initial stages, whether it's an interview, whether it's a university project, and whether it's public speaking in front of thousands. This same rule applies. And that rule is, you have to break the ice with your audience. You have to break the ice with the audience. And that's the toughest bit. But once you've done that, everything flows naturally. So do I get nervous before I go on stage? Every single time. Every single time. I get nervous when it's a small audience, I get nervous when it's a big audience. And it's the same type of nerves. And I get similar nerves when I'm about to do a live stream, because you know it's unedited, you know that you have to go on. But those nerves and that adrenaline actually motivates you, and that adrenaline actually pushes you through that initial boundary before you've broken the ice. And you already know when you've broken the ice instinctively. Because what happens is you hear a little laugh, you feel the audience, sink into their seats a bit, and that's the best feeling, and you can sense that when that happens. But your job right now is to get to that point. How do you get to that point? The best way, I think, to get to that point is to always have something prepared in different ways, right? So tip number one, be super prepared for public speaking. Super prepared. And have go-to things that you can say that will help you if you fall off track. An example is, I remember when I spoke to my uncle who does public speaking on an even larger scale, and I used his mentorship and I got some advice, and he gave me one or two jokes that always break the ice in case I fall back, right? So something where, one thing that you can always do is you can pick on an audience member, or you can make fun of yourself. If you make fun of yourself and you do it in the right way, it's the very best way to break the ice. If you can make fun of yourself in a way where it's light, it will always go down great. It will always go down great because you're almost basically telling people it's okay. Feel comfortable with me, right? So have something as your go-to kind of thing that you're ready with, and this changes according to the different settings. A question is always a great way to break the ice. So rather than going on stage and saying Assalamu alaikum, my name is Faisal, imagine walking on stage and saying, let's say for example, I had to present something about an online education platform, right? And I think the way I started it is I walked onto stage and I said, all of us have questions to do with our faith. Something along the lines of that. Where is Allah? Who is Allah? How do we follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And all of a sudden, I'm asking questions that people are relating to, and then I give the solution. And then I was speaking about this online academy. So asking questions is a great way. So I think mixing light humor, mixing questions is always a great way. I think from that point, once you've broken that ice, then it's a lot more easy because then you're just kind of getting into it, right? And that's when you can let your personality flourish. But if you can master being comfortable around a live audience, it will work to your advantage in so many ways, because the number one fear for people is public speaking. If you can master public speaking, you have a massive advantage against people. And I'll tell you two times where that has worked really in my favor. The first time was in a job interview. So as you guys know, a lot of you guys know, I used to work at Apple. Now Apple's process to hire somebody is a 4-step process. There's 4 stages that you have to physically go to every time. Now to stand out, and the first couple stages are like in front of a big group. It's a big group, and they kind of group analyze you. So you have to stand out in front of a group. And so I had to let my personality, I had to try and let my personality shine at that point. So that's one time where kind of practicing public speaking, being able to get myself in a zone where I'm scared, has really benefited me. The second time was a university project. So as you guys know, most university degrees are 3 years. The first year, nobody really concentrates. I've really done not great in my first year, but it didn't count. The second year I did okay, and the third year I smashed, but that's because I actually I actually started using my brain in my third year. But because the third year was so good and the other 2 years weren't great, it kind of brought my grade down in total. The second year, the reason why, the second year is what made or braked my university career and my journey, and that's because I didn't do as well in my written exams. But we had one exam that was quite hefty where we had to present, as you guys know I did criminology, we had to present our studies in front of a live audience, and I think I got like 96 out of 100 in that presentation. And that is a place where the reason I think I scored so high is not because I did amazingly, but because these lecturers are reviewing everybody's presentations. So you just have to be a lot better than everybody else. How do you be a lot better than everybody else? You put yourself in these situations where you can practice public speaking and you can get better at it. Okay, because we're keeping these live streams short, I'm going to keep that as my monologue, and we're going to crack on with questions from you guys. Let me know how that was, and let me know. I've kind of made it nice and vague so that we can go into questions, inshallah. We're going to spend about 15 minutes now on questions and the wheel, and then we'll call it a day, because we're in the last 10 days of Ramadan, and alhamdulillah, I'll be keeping these live streams short for now. But I hope that you guys have some cool questions, and now I'm blabbing, so let's go to the questions. Okay. Right. Okay, says, how do you talk without your voice sounding shaky because of nerves, which then makes you more nervous because everyone's going to hear that you're nervous? I know this problem, and I think I've experienced it most of the times I've public spoken. I'll say this. because that's such a norm, I think the crowd and audience generally are quite forgiving. So if that is the case, you just got to pick yourself up very, very quickly, and they'll forget about that. And the best way to do that is a joke. And the best way to do that if you're nervous is probably to have a joke pre-planned that's like light-hearted about yourself. And you could even make a joke about you being nervous. So I often tell that story that I told you guys at the beginning of my first experience public speaking, because it's something that's relatable. No matter what I'm speaking about and where I'm speaking, I'm always going to be speaking in front of an audience. So I often start my talk by saying, Assalamu alaikum, or whatever, if it's in front of a Muslim audience or a non-Muslim audience. Often it's in front of a Muslim audience because of my general kind of trade. But I'll say Assalamu alaikum, and then I'll pause, because remember we said to slow things down. So I'll pause and I'll look at the audience, and now they're a bit confused because everyone's waiting for me to drive this kind of boat, right? Imagine you're all on a ship and everyone's onto you to see which way we're going, right? And so I look at the audience, and then I take a breath and I go, you know, just before I get started, I just want to say that this is reminding me of the first time I ever spoke in front of a live audience. And in fact, I'm going to tell you guys a story, and I take them on the journey of that story, and then I end the story with a joke. And the joke is that after all of that build up of me crying and everything, the conversation that I had with my dad at the end in the car, and that always breaks the ice, because that conversation was so funny, right? Because it's almost like I was crying and this, that, the other, and I was nervous. Then I get to the car and I speak to my dad, and my dad says, "You didn't even translate it properly." Do you know what I mean? And then everyone's like, So anyway, have a story ready, break the ice, and slow things down. Okay. Right, let's do this. Let's spin the wheel, guys. Bismillah. Let's see how this goes. Question. Nice. Okay. Let's go for a question. Okay, here we go. Okay. Does criminology studies help you for your current job? If so, yes. No, if yes, how? Any connection between this and two? So, criminology actually does help a lot with most things that I do. And here's why. There's two key parts of criminology that really have helped me. One of them, my favorite module in criminology, was social psychology. So social psychology is the study of the fun side of psychology. So it's not the side of psychology that's really, because when people study psychology, there's many different modules and parts of it, and a lot of them are not what we imagine. Like, you know, when you think of psychology, you think, oh, I'm going to be able to like study why people get angry, why people commit crimes, whether your family life and childhood affects your mindset when you're older. But oftentimes that's not only what you study. It's a very small part of psychology. Social psychology is pretty much all of that, and so social psychology was one of my favorite modules. But the great thing about it is that not only are you able to analyze the mind of a criminal, you're basically analyzing the mind of humans in general, and so it really helps moving forward in life, with relationships, with business relationships, with work, with understanding your audience and stuff like that. So that's one way it's helped. The second way it helped is there's a really, really awful, boring, horrible module that a lot of degrees make you do in business, in social sciences, and that's called research methods. And research methods is a brain killer. I couldn't stand it, but I am grateful I did it. And the reason is because in research methods, you analyze a lot of data, and you have to understand, you have to carry out different tests. And in social sciences, like criminology, those tests are to do with humans. So why humans react in a certain way, how, if we put this many humans in a room and did this, how would they react compared to this many humans who didn't. And so that's great for when, whatever job you go into, you're always going to need to analyze to some extent. You're going to need to analyze some data to some extent. Data is like the number one asset for most jobs, whether it's overt or covert, whether it's like out there and obvious, or whether, you know, it doesn't seem like it on the forefront. Data is still going to be a key proponent in that business. So it helped with that regard. Would I recommend someone to study criminology? I think it's case by case. I think generally I would say no, but I think it's case by case. Okay. Right. Perfect. Let's get into another spin. Oh, failure. No, finance. I was looking at it on the screen and it looked like it said failure because I was like trying to read it in reverse. Okay, finance. For finance, we had a lovely finance person on here the other day who was giving some great finance advice, and his name was Amir, and Amir isn't here in the chat. He doesn't like, so let's give some finance reflection. Let's have a finance reflection. Okay, let me see if I've got anything in my pre-written notes that I've mentioned about finance, which I don't think I do have. Actually, you know what? The fact that we're in the month of Ramadan, the fact that we still talk about being efficient Muslims, I think it makes sense, and it's land of finance, that we do speak a bit about charity. And I know that sounds very cliche, very boring, and it's going to be things that everybody's heard before, but the reminder benefits the believers. And what I would say about charity is this. You know, we often, when we talk about charity, we talk about the narration that says, charity does not decrease wealth. And that's something that we hear so much that we almost just let it go past, and we don't think too much about it. But if you really think about it, any time in your life when you've ever given charity, have you ever felt the pinch of that charity? And that's a reminder to myself more than anyone, because we're in a time where all of our deeds are the rewards are multiplied so much in the month of Ramadan, and the fact that we're able to, it's so easy for us to be able to give in charity, in a sense that it's so accessible. We could just go online and do it, right? Even if it's £1. But even if you have £1 and you give that in charity, have you ever felt the pinch? Have you ever felt some loss? And if I'm honest, I've had some rough times, and giving charity still never made me feel like that. Subhanallah. So there's my finance little thing there today. And Riaz has joined us. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He has joined us fairly late, but you can always rewind it. Alhamdulillah. And we have Abdullah gave a public speaking tip. He said, you have to think positively and picture yourself doing well out there. Mindset is everything. That's true. You want to almost picture the entire presentation before you do it. And that's why going to a venue early is very important. Okay guys, we're 23 minutes in. We're going to cap this in 7 minutes. So let's do another spin. And guys, remember, if you have a question, write question in capitals and then your question. Oh, we land on productivity. That's cool. Is that yeah, the productivity? Right. Let's talk about okay. Actually, I wanted to ask that as a question to you guys. So let's try and save that. Actually, no, let's have that as a discussion. Productivity. Let's talk smart tech and smart home tech. And this is where I want your guys' opinion on this. What do you guys think about smart tech and smart home technology, right? Smart homes. And so here we're talking smart bulbs, we're talking about the Alexa, we're talking about the Google, what's the Google one called? The Google, the one where you say, okay Google, I can't quite remember. Oh, it's really going to bug me now, but I'm sure you guys will remind me any second. what are your guys' opinion on smart homes? And I'm going to speak specifically about the privacy issue. I'm really intrigued to know, do you guys use smart TVs, smart bulbs, the Ring doorbell feature? And if so, how much do you worry about your privacy? Do you have a fear that these things can be hacked? And if you do, how rational do you think that fear is? And if you don't, do you think that you should? I'm really intrigued to know, because I think we're going in a direction now in life where everything's about to become smart home. You know, I think eventually they're not even going to sell TVs if they, unless they're already doing this. But they're not going to even sell TVs that aren't smart TVs. You're going to eventually not even be able to buy a kettle that's not a smart kettle. You won't be able to buy a bulb that's not a smart bulb in the next few years. That's my prediction. So, if that's the case, should we just start using smart tech now? I want to see some conspiracy theories here, man. So let's get some yeah, Google Home. Hannah, thanks for that. So what are you guys' opinions? Okay, Productive Log says, I think Amazon Alexa, etc. are just useless. I surprisingly kind of agree. And the reason I say surprisingly is because an Amazon Alexa is my go-to gift. When I'm gifting people something I don't know what to get them, I'll get them an Alexa, because it's great for the house. You can use it for different things, ask it questions, turn your lights on and off. But I don't have one myself, and I don't want one, which is weird because I love smart home technology. But the Alexa, I'm not sold on it. The only thing I would benefit from is the fact that I could turn my lights on and off. Everything else I don't really need an Alexa for. And the reason I don't use it is because my lights are connected to my phone. My phone is always within arm's reach of me. So I right now, I don't think it has as many benefits as it probably will in the future. So I agree. Nafisa says, I'm very cautious of smart tech. Nafisa, let us know why. Why are you cautious? Wow, Nadeem says that he's set up his Google Home to play the Adhan during Salah times. I like that. You can get apps that do that though. So am I sold by that? Maybe, because you prefer that on your Google Home than on your phone. Because on your phone you could be in a meeting, you could be out and about and the Adhan plays, whereas at home it's always going to be at home. Yeah, okay. S. Montal says they could be hacked, but I think that fear is pretty irrational, and we should take advantage of the tech being developed to help us in our daily lives if we can. I agree. I think definitely I'm a big proponent of taking advantage of the tech and using it for convenience. And that's why I love smart bulbs. Because, for example, one of the amazing things about smart bulbs, which I don't use it for this function, only because I lost the vote on it, but I love the idea of it, is with a smart bulb you can set the time for the bulb to come on, right? So you could essentially set your alarm for Fajr and set the light to come on at Fajr time as well, which I think is so productive, because Fajr is really hard to wake up for, especially in the summer when it's, you know, really early in the morning. And you having your light turn on automatically, I think is amazing. I think leaving the house and checking your device to see if your light's on or off, it will save you money in electric bill. And bear in mind that a lot of these smart bulbs are like energy saving as well. So yeah, I agree. Well, we're having a really healthy discussion here, guys. We've got a lot of opinions, alhamdulillah. Riaz, Alexa seems quite scary, honestly. Let's be honest. Our phones could probably be hacked, so why are we scared about the others? Agreed again. Our smartest devices are probably our phones, and we keep them everywhere with us. That's a very good point. Okay, let's see if we... Yeah. So Nafisa says she's cautious of smart tech, and we asked her to elaborate. So let's see if Nafisa's let us know. Aslam says having loads of high tech is actually useless. They will just make a new one even better but more expensive, so there's no point in buying them. Okay. I mean, I would say that I think tech's getting cheaper and cheaper. It's getting more advanced and cheaper as it goes. And what's the concept that we learn about in science in school, which is like there's a certain law that every 6 months something doubles in space and halves in price or something, and that seems to be true. So they optimize Muslims. Assalamu alaikum, you are back. I'm into tech but don't have any smart home tech. I don't think there are many efficiency benefits. I would disagree with you on the efficiency benefits on some of them. Example, okay, I've spoken too much about the bulbs, but another example, the Hive, right? The heating and the heating app, right? How amazing is it that in a really cold winter, and it's cold a lot here in the UK, that on your way home from work you could turn the heating on so that your house is nice and warm for you when you come back. And that's better than just having a timer on your thermostat, because sometimes your time will change. So that's quite efficient price wise, because you're not wasting it by just having the timer constantly running, and also efficiency in terms of overall happiness, coming home being warm. I think that's a great investment. Yes, I agree with Hannah completely. Smart kettles are an absolute joke. You have to still get up to fill the water in. So until it can fill the water in itself, it makes no sense. Alright guys, oh man, we're having such a good discussion here. So many opinions, but we've come to the end of our live stream. But I think that was a really, really nice, productive discussion. And I thank you all for joining that discussion about smart tech. I think all of us basically agree that smart tech, this general consensus seems to be that smart tech isn't as useful to us as it probably will be in a few years. So right now you can live without it, and we agree that we're all fairly cautious of it, although we all seem to be of the mindset that eventually, inevitably, we will be using more smart tech. So I think that's a good analysis that we made. So be cautious, but so I'm shooting your guys' comments. Be cautious, but eventually we're going to need to be all getting smart tech. Anyway, I don't think you're going to sell anything other than that. So why not take advantage of the things that you find useful now? Like in my case, the bulb. Alright guys, we'll see you again tomorrow inshallah. Jazakallahu khair for having a fruitful discussion with me. I hope the public speaking side of things benefited you guys, and please do comment below. I'm really enjoying these live streams. I'm enjoying the community that we've been able to build, and if you're a fan of this kind of thing, do have a think about clicking the join button and joining this channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And end.